I'm here in the back offices at ATG. It's nothing too amazing, but we've got a nice gym. Got actually a pretty long turf space. All our good stuff. Upstairs, we've got a nice little wood floor for basketball skill practice. I'll show it to you from the outside. Here's my car I've been driving since high school. So I'm not gonna make this video about having a Maserati and something crazy fancy. In fact, I'll never have a Maserati, but this you can see it goes high ceiling for the court. And this is the building. But what is good is that I've paid off this building and it's worth almost $1 million. No debt. And I got here by starting training kids in the summertime. Shortly after I began following Keegan, I realized that knees over toes was the way to go. In basketball, it's a cardinal sin to let your knees over your toes in training. So here's the front of ATG. We're downtown, so the real estate is pretty high. And I'm actually looking to, this is about 4,000 square feet. I'm looking right now for something. I'm looking for a field about 100,000 square feet, so like 25 times the size of my existing place. So I can put in just factory, industrial metal walls, but with my own basketball court, massive indoor turf for my NFL guys. The NBA, NFL guys, they want their own, they want to be able to do their skill work in the same facility. And we love doing that stuff as well. We love teaching how to bridge the weight room ability onto the playing surface. So I started training kids in the summertime because, as I was saying, shortly after I started following Keegan, my knees started changing. And even though from 18 to 21 I was unable to play basketball because of my knees, once my knees started changing, I knew that I'd be able to play again. I marketed myself to a college, and I ended up getting a full ride scholarship. And so in my hometown here, kids were like, what the heck happened? I still wasn't that athletic, but I was getting more athletic. And just going from being unable to play to now playing college basketball on a scholarship, kids wanted to train. So I charged them like $20 a day, and I basically had a bunch of rugrats who would follow me around. They would go with me to the gym. This was before I had a gym or anything. I really didn't consider myself a trainer. I just knew that I had ways to help these kids, and I couldn't turn them down. They'd follow me to the court, they'd follow me to the weight room, and just the local, gym, and they'd pay me like $20 a day to follow me around, see how I eat, how I train, and copy me and do all the drills. So that's how I started. And then as soon as I finished 2 years of college in America, you can bump up to a 4-year college if you've been at a 2-year college, and that's what I was about to do, and I was on a full scholarship for that. But the governing body denied my eligibility because I had already been 3 years out of high school before I even went to college. I was actually out of years to play, and I didn't even realize it. I could have gotten a lawyer and stuff, but that's when it kind of clicked for me that I knew I needed to be a trainer, that's what I was meant to do. So I put some equipment in my garage. This was actually at my parents' house, a very small house, like a 1-car garage. Put my equipment in there and then started training the kids out of there. Then I heard about a buddy who had like a little factory gym, like a little warehouse, a mini warehouse, and he had some equipment in there. So then I called him up to see, this was just an old friend from many years ago, to see if I could put my stuff in his place. So I started training some people out of there. From there, some of the kids I was training, their school, I saw they had like some vacant classrooms, and I was like, hey, what if I train the basketball team and in exchange I get to use one of the classrooms? So I had one squat rack, one Nordic, and a seated calf machine, and then I got a tibialis machine in there. So I had 4 pieces of equipment in this 16 by 20 foot classroom. So that's like 5 by 6 meters roughly. Kept going there, was great because I had no rent at the other place. I was having to help the guy with rent. Then my parents bought a new house, like a fixer-upper, and no one lived there yet. So I actually moved my equipment into there because that was a 2-car garage. So it was actually a 2-car garage. It was bigger than the classroom. Again, no rent because my parents had bought this house. And I was helping on the house. So I actually lived in the house and lived right there. We called it the Manor. The Manor, a lot of people had good times in the Manor because it's just like you go to this neighborhood and then go to this house and we open up the garage, and then we had, I think, like 2 squat racks, 2 Nordics, something like that. And then I ran into the problem I could only train up to 4 people at a time. And my biggest mistake as a trainer was just I never turned anyone down. So like whatever they could afford, I just took them. It was my biggest mistake, but also maybe my greatest success because it's unlikely anyone on the planet has like put in as much one-on-one time training people as I have over the last few years. So I could only train up to 4 people at a time, and more people were wanting to train than that. So I found a place that we called the Dungeon because it was in the ghetto. Like there was actually a day there was like a SWAT team outside my gym, and I'm like, can I go inside? And like parents are like dropping their kids off, like calling me, hey, I think we have the wrong address to your location because we're like outside this like abandoned. And I'm like, no, that's the right place. Yep. Are there like homeless people walking on the corner? Yep, you're at the right place. So we called it the Dungeon. Sometimes the lights didn't work. We would have lanterns in there at night and we'd still be training. And then I started to buy some back extensions, some sleds. We would be out there, never one person at a time, because one time I took my sled outside, I went back in to grab weights, and when I came out, the sled was gone, and there was like a truck driving off, and like people had the sled. They were just gonna scrap it for metal. So I lost a sled with that. So we had a rule, like someone had to be with the sled at all times, and you had to like go in teams so that you wouldn't literally get the sled stolen from you. So we called this the Dungeon. I was paying $500 a month rent, which was actually nothing for like the amount of size I had. I had, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand square feet, which where I am would cost at least $2,000 a month if you were anywhere else but the ghetto. But that's how much space I needed to train. And even in there, it was packed, training anybody and everyone who wanted my training. So meanwhile, my mom is really real estate savvy. So is my dad, but my mom kind of is the one in charge of finding property. So we knew it was kind of money down the drain paying rent. We wanted to buy a place. Just happened to be a place opened up downtown, the place I showed you. And it was going for a good deal. And to rent anywhere around here was actually going to cost like a lot more per month than it was going to be to pay off the mortgage here. So that's what we did. It was a blessing. Came in here, have been training people here ever since for the last about 4 years. But to give you an idea, in those 4 years, like I had a lot of times where my schedule went from 4 a.m. So like starting training people super in the morning until midnight, and oftentimes without it. I've gone days, weeks, months living on Quest bars or whatever I had around, Quest bars and amino acids. And yeah, so there was a lot of times like that. I had a little chiropractic table, like one of those massage tables. I had it in a back room that no one really knew about, and I would just sleep back there. Legally, you're not supposed to like have your residence here, but many times I had to do that. And I was just training anyone and everyone. And you know, in this business, if you don't charge a lot, you can work a lot of hours and not really get anywhere financially. And that was kind of me. But as I said earlier in this, you know, the amount of reps that I got in the trenches, I don't think anything can replace that. And you know, being a nobody, not having any connections to top athletes, not having a college degree, you know, people are relying on results. I had no fancy marketing. I only made the knees over toes guy in August last year. So actually just under a year ago, I made a personal Instagram page for the first time to try to actually sell myself. And so you can see for years there, you know, I would just grinding in here basically without any eyes on the product. And as many mistakes as I made that I would go back and do it differently now, again, nothing can really replace all that time in the trenches. It's you could say hindsight's 20/20, but I didn't even have a product, so who cares if someone would have been looking at the product? And I think that's a mistake, is to think that it's all about how to sell your product instead of thinking about how valuable is your product, how much can you actually help people. So that's all I try to do the whole time, is how can I help people, how can I help people? And it did just get to a point where enough people were telling me, like, man, pro athletes would love this stuff. Other people could use this stuff. And to where, it was, I knew that I could deliver it consistently. So now I kind of specialize in pros and online. Those are my two big things now. That's all I try to focus my life on, pros and online. So trying to train the top guys, because I know those guys can have influence on, everyone from the kids to the high school kids to the college kids, trying to hit the guys who influence in sports. I'm trying to really help change the system for the better, so that kids can grow up a lot healthier and that athletes aren't getting beat up by their strength coaches in college. And I know to do that, the bigger guys I connect with, the better. And then meanwhile, online, because that can scale. If you have something that's really helpful, I can help more people that way. So I'm just trying to help the maximum number of people. So online allows things to spread, and training pros allows things to spread, and it's going very well. I don't know if for the scope of this article I should get into the numbers and stuff, but basically without those years of actually creating something truly helpful, then I wouldn't be in a position I am now to make the money that I do now. So I really don't look back and have any regrets. And in the scheme of things, it's going to go by like a blink. Those years of grinding and just surviving and not making the money you want to make, but putting in the hours, putting in the time, studying. See, I was still just like studying anything and everything obsessively, trying anything and everything obsessively, paying thousands of dollars to go and take courses. And I wouldn't replace that. I wouldn't change that. I invested. There was probably times where I was investing more than I was making, but then you'll find, Bruce Lee philosophy: keep what works, reject what doesn't, add what's uniquely your own. Who is your clientele? Mine centers mostly around basketball, and so you have to understand that, like, my average client has like horrible knees when they come to me, horrible ankles. It's almost like every client that was coming in was like in need of complete repair of ankles and knees. And if I could just get those good, these dudes are so tall and long and talented that then they'll be like superhumans on a basketball court. So, don't underestimate the value of your experiences. What area are you in? What sport are you training? Really dive in. Don't think about how can they help you? How can you help them? Don't get so caught up in the money side of things that you lose sight of trying to master your craft and be truly as helpful as you can. But yeah, if there was one thing I would have changed, I would have hired someone more as a mentor. I can tell you, like, in the last year with Keegan, that like my finances have completely changed. At least from my viewpoint, I'm basically living the dream now in terms of finances, and I wasn't a year ago when I started having, getting to chat with Keegan and kind of learn from him. So, in no way is this like a sales pitch video. Really, it was trying to give you a look at, maybe you're even owning a gym more successful than me, and maybe this isn't helpful at all for you. Maybe it even just makes you reflect on some of your own times like I've been through to get where you are. But if you are someone who's trying to, build your own gym and brand and help as many people as possible, this can be really valuable. And take those very few points, which is don't be scared of absolutely grinding to get to the product you want, and always think about how can you add value, how can you help more, and then the one little thing I would have changed, get some type of freaking guidance, because you probably could just structure things a little bit differently and still help your clients just as much, maybe even more, but also make the money that you need to make to be able to do things the way you want to do them, to be able to help how you want to help. I don't know, me and my wife just gave like a $5,000 donation to charity, something like that. I mean, that's just a small example, but if you're not making money, you know what I mean, you can't, there's things in the outside world, outside of training, there's even down to making your facilities better. Like by me now being able to get my own court, I can now work with even higher level guys, make bigger impacts, and then deliver that to the people I train online, to kids. I can make a bigger impact from my own success. So those three things: don't be scared of the grind. Absolutely never lose sight. Every day, wake up. How can I help more? How can I help more? Wake up with that every day. And then get someone who's been there and done what you want to do, and so that you realize that being a trainer and being a gym owner, being a business person, do you run classes? Do you do personal training? What type of culture are you creating? There's so many things that can go into making like your dream situation come true, that go beyond the scope of sets and reps and exercise technique and things of that nature. Hope this helped.